Date. I luckily don't live with him or have any shared assets. He also did explicitly say that he expects me to continue working, so I guess he wanted the best of both worlds. And before we started dating, I was hesitant due to our age gap. I have heard of horror stories, so I have been very careful about power dynamics. But he was amazing for the last 3 years, so I did put my defenses down eventually. My friends and family also liked him. They always said we genuinely seemed happy together and complimented each other well. On to what happened. He came over to my house the night, which isn't unusual. We spend most nights together after work. I knew I had to break up but didn't know how to yet. I was still debating if I should ask him more questions or just end it. And if I end it, do I tell him everything or keep it concise? Luckily, he did not suspect anything so far, so it took me some time to figure out my next step, I thought. As soon as he came in though, he tried to initiate intimacy and I said no since I was not in the mood, understandably so. He got angry. He has never done this before. We have always had a very healthy, fulfilling, intimate relationship, but now, he kept trying to convince me to have intimacy with him and asked me why I was putting my needs over his, that I can just force myself to do it for the sake of our relationship. I said that I wasn't feeling well. I know I shouldn't even have to justify though. He said that even if I'm not feeling well, it's not an excuse. I was disgusted. I fell out of love that instant. I mean, I was already in the process of it, but this really did it. I also felt very unsafe. I stood my ground and told him that this was not consensual and that someone's health was more important than his need for intimacy. I kept repeating it until he eventually stopped pushing, but he didn't leave my place until an hour later. I was afraid to anger him again by telling him to leave, so I just stayed quiet doing stuff around the apartment until he decided to leave. Luckily, nothing happened to me, but wow. I told my friends and family everything. They supported me in my decision to break up and helped me prepare my speech. I asked him to meet me in a public space the next day as one of the comments suggested. My friends were nearby keeping an eye. He was still angry at me because I hadn't been talking to him and I refused intimacy. He asked me why I expect him to take care of me when I'm unwell, but I didn't give him intimacy yesterday. I decided to not waste my breath in explaining something so basic. I went on with my breakup speech as prepared, where I told him everything, how disrespectful he's been, all the podcast stuff, etc. He suddenly looked so scared and begged me to take him back. He said he understands what I'm saying, that I'm right about the podcast and that he will work on it. He was trying to convince me not to break up, but I did not believe anything he said. I held my ground and told him there was no room for discussion. It was over and I left. Now I feel a weight lifted, but I am also heartbroken. I know this was the right thing to do. I just feel defeated. I wake up so anxious and feel like crying constantly. I am barely eating. I am seeing a therapist next week to help me cope. If you guys have words of encouragement and maybe success stories of meeting your person, I'd love to hear them. Thank you all sincerely. You all helped me in finding courage and strength in my time of need.